So I'm just going to start making the Tuffy, the doll cake. I have the printout of the image. Okay, and this is the maximum size of the actual image in an A4 sheet. If we want it bigger, we could just blow up this a bit. Now I've taken two color only because I just wanted to show you guys. Also, I could refer soft copy of the image from the device is also good enough. Now here I just cut out, so the body, that is the hand, it's just the image, everything in the image is just right here. Okay, and then the head. So I just want them to be separate, so I could just compare the sizes. I'm just thinking I'll just make a little bigger than this, otherwise it is like too small. But then I'll be giving you the templates, so you could just use them as you're going to carve. You could just place it and then compare the size of the body, the head, and all that as you do. Okay, so this printout will be useful, so you could just keep at least one. The template that is given, that will not have the image itself, that'll just be the template of the body, the hands, and then the head, and so for you to compare the sizes. But this one is good enough, so you could just compare, and you don't have to always need the device as you're working. Okay, so I'm just going to put this aside, and now I have I've made a pistachio sponge also because I want to keep encouraging the cake artists to pay more attention into the layers, the flavors. So you'll also be given the recipe document which has the recipe for the pistachio sponge I've made, and I'm just going to use orange ganache to layer the cake and then go ahead and carve it. Okay, so why should we always do like a simple vanilla cake or a chocolate cake and then lay with ganache, and then because we just want to carve, we just don't focus too much on what is going to go inside of the cake. So there is obviously artificial color, orange food color is added in this to have the eye appeal of the combination of the green and orange that I wanted to see as I cut the cake. But then the orange flavor is definitely from the fresh oranges, and the recipe is given of how I have infused the orange flavor into the white ganache. Okay, and that's been whipped, and the method will be given there in the document for you to take a look. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use to layer, and obviously on the outside you could use white ganache if you don't want the dark, but I'm going to use dark ganache to cover the entire thing before we could go ahead with the fondant. Okay, so now I'm just going to toast the cake. I'm just going to do it into two So the cakes have to be baked the minimum the previous day, or you could just even bake them a few days before, and you need to cling wrap them 15 minutes out of the oven and then leave it in the freezer. Okay, so this is quite cold and frozen, and that is how I want, because when layering and carving you don't want the sponge to be in complete room temperature, or you're going to catch up on a lot of crumbs. So when you freeze the cake minimum overnight, and then when you're ready to work, you just take it out of the freezer 30 minutes before you're ready to start carving, and that will be at the right stage, so it's not going to catch up on a lot of crumbs. Okay, so I'm just going to start using the layers. I'm just going to soften the ganache So obviously white ganache you make the previous day, and use chocolate and not compound. So once you make, the ratio is 1:3, which is 1 part of cream to 3 parts of white chocolate, and you melt the both together. And obviously how to infuse orange is there in the recipe. So once you've made the orange ganache, you leave it in the refrigerator overnight, and then the next day allow it to thaw for some time, and then you need to beat the ganache, so it just becomes a bit more flexible to use, otherwise it is going to be very stretchy, so and then it makes it difficult to layer. Okay, so I just softened it up. It's beaten, it's whipped white ganache. Okay, so here on the board I'm just going to add some ganache, and then the bottom layer. So obviously on the outside I'm going to cut, right? So I don't want the ganache to get wasted, so I'm going to just leave out a bit on the edge. So the cake I'm going to cut, I will be using to build the legs and the hands, so that will still be used up, but I just don't want the filling also to get mixed up there. Then even if you're going to carve through some part which has the filling, doesn't matter. So it's the body that we are building. You could use buttercream as well to fill, and obviously any cake of your choice. So that will be the last layer. I'm not going to add the orange filling on top of this. Okay, now I'm just going to start cutting out. So I'm going to leave the base quite broad initially, so I'm just going to start cutting out on this outer edge. I'm just going to reduce all the way here, and then try to leave the bottom quite broad. So let's start with cutting down on this part of the cake, which will be from here. So we want the top part to be narrow, right? So all this cut cake, I'm just going to keep it aside because we're just going to make cake pops and use that to build the hands and legs. So in your carving, you just understand what shape it is going to be. We're kind of going to get a pear shape or a teardrop shape. That will be the shape of the body of a doll. So that's what we are going to try and get. But though we kind of know the initial cut, the carve itself, it's not possible to get the exact shape. Like in one cut, I'll not be able to get. I need to slowly cut, because if you're going to overcut, then it's difficult to add. You could add, but then it's not it's not easy. Like that's an extra step to go and add something that you just removed. So instead, we could just cut little at a time. Okay, so I'm just going to go make it narrow again. So you can see this much is the circumference on the top. I just want to go ahead and maybe have this as the neck of the doll. Okay, so I'll go all the way till here first. So the little bit of the ganache coming out is quite fine, because we could just mix it up with a sponge as we are going to make the cake pop mixture. Okay, now the top near the neck is quite fine, and now the bottom is kind of very flat, right? Just going to gradually remove this part as well. Okay, now I'm just going to narrow down a bit of the bottom as well. So I'm just going to round it off, go all the way till there, and at the bottom I'm just going to cut the excess. Just do it again to show you. I'm going to come all the way from here and then go to the bottom and then cut and then make this base rounded. Okay. So it will look like it is just going to the bottom and it's curved on the underside. Okay, so you can just see the difference between how the sponge is like as it is, and then the place just these two areas where I've just cut, it will still get improvised. You just want to exaggerate. So while carving with cakes, the cake carving alone is not the final shape or the size, right? Because after you've carved the cake, we are going to ganache it, and that is going to take a bit of thickness. And on top of that, say if it is like a buttercream cake or a ganache cake and you're just going to carve and give the texture on top of that, that is still allowed. Not necessarily all the time you need to do fondant cover on top, but however, if there is fondant work on top, then you need to give the leverage for the thickness of the ganache that you will add on top of this, and then the fondant on top of that. Why I'm saying stopping in between talking about that is, if you want this curve to be seen, then you need to exaggerate or overdo the carving or any shape or any curve that you think has to be there in your final cake. Then whatever you see here right after you're carving the cake is not what is going to be there. They'll all just get dissolved, which is like the ganache will come and cover up the the curve. So you have like a wave or something, and when you're going to ganache on top of that, you're just going to fill up that wave, and then when fondant is going to come on top of that, and that is even going to make it flat. So it shouldn't go flat, for which you have to deepen the curve, and so which that little bit of extra ganache and then some more fondant coming on top, we still have the level of curve that you want in any part of the carving. So the cake's shape is not the final shape of your final result that you are looking at. You need to overdo, you need to keep that size and the size of the entire thing smaller than what you want. So because if you learn sculpting with clay, right, now whatever you do on the clay, that will be the final shape and size. So you can keep working on clay sculpting, assuming that that is a final one. You can improvise with that one medium. Here we are just having layers of mediums when it comes to cake carving. So the first layer, and then you need to kind of overdo, and keeping in mind, okay, here there's going to be ganache or the buttercream layer is going to be there, and so I just need to keep this curve a bit more deep. So even when ganache is going to come on this layer, then I will still have a room for the shape that I am looking at. So I'm just making sure I go all the way down there and turning the knife at an angle and then going inside all the way and then removing this from the inside. So I just have the curve all the way down. Okay. Now it's all rounded, right, because it was a round cake that we had used. Now for the tummy part is going to be flat, so it's just going to be flat here. It's not rounded. Okay, our body itself is not rounded. There'll be a flat part tummy. A little bit of tummy can be added, but this rounded is not how the doll itself will be shaped. You can just think of a teddy bear where this part it looks like it has tummy, but then I'm just going to flatten this part. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and then cut this part. So this one flat part is going to be the tummy, and then I will just go exactly opposite. So that will be the back. I will switch over because it's a bigger area. I will switch over to the serrated knife. Okay, and you don't want it to be kind of too sharp. So I'm just going to soften that. So here I'm just going to cut at an angle, kind of soften up. Soften up is just trying to create a curve instead of just keeping it too sharp, like, because we just cut it straight, and that side looks it is sharp. Again, now that we cut here, you can see it's gone kind of too flat here, right? So here again, just remove off this. And same thing on the back. So obviously there will be cake crumbs as you are going to carve. And once the carving is done, I'm just going to clear up, and then we could just move on to the next stage. So but right now, yes, it is going to be cake crumbs. So we know it is cake, and then precisely carving it, but sometimes we could just shape it up because it is going to get soft, and it will allow you to get into a particular shape. So you could just soften up and then just put the cake in place, or whichever has just been hanging out all the crumbs, and then check if we have shape of the body. Now just kind of want to cut this. Obviously now I will have to make some cake pop mixture, which is nothing but having this and then mixing it up with some cream, and I need to build on the neck because this neck is kind of too broad, and I'll be building some. So you could actually have another smaller layer of the cake, or it is easier to use the cake pop mixture and then work on to increase the height of the body, and that I'll do. Clear this up and then get some of this cake in a separate plate with some cream, and I'm just going to show you how to make the cake pop mixture, so we could just build on the neck. So we still have more work to do on the body. I'll just get back. So I'm just going to mix up the cake scrap, okay, and make the cake pop. So I'm just using gloves to keep it a bit clean, and if you want to retain the green color of the sponge as it is, then you could use any cream in white, maybe buttercream or white ganache. I'm just going to keep the flavors pista and orange, so I just want to use the same ganache. So I could add little by little. I don't want to add like too much cream as well, so I'm just going to knead the cream and the cake together. So it just should retain the shape, okay. So I could just make a ball out of it, okay, and then you just need to have the shape in place, okay. So knead that well, and I'm just going to add some ganache in here. You just microwave it a bit. Is working in like AC. So you could just microwave the ganache a bit. I'm just going to grab some of the cake pop mixture, just call it cake pop mixture, and then start adding. So I could consider one of the flat side as the front and the other flat side as the back. Okay. So I just need a bit of flat surface on the top as well, because the head is going to come on top of it. I'm just going to add some skewers, dowels as well to support the weight of the head. Just trying to increase the height a bit. So I will do ganache on top of this, right? So I'm just going to carve a bit more. So the chest is usually, now assume this is the front now, okay. The chest is not the same, the width or the thickness, the size of the tummy is bit more than the part above the tummy. So which will be the chest area. So here I just want to cut down a bit. So I'm just talking about this part, which is narrowing here on the chest. And then you have a broader tummy. So just want, so this is the tummy part, this will be the neck on the top, and here this will be the chest. Okay, and just shaping it up. And here again I just want to soften this area. Just grab another knife. Here again you just want to cut this area. I'm just going to cut this part. We want to put everything together now. Check the shape and see where I just need to make it better. Just want to reduce here a bit on the sides. So you could just have a real time teddy bear or the doll right in front of you. Having a 3D doll and then working from there is like really very easy. So you could just compare the shape. I'm just going to get to the eye level and check if I'm happy with the shape of the body. And obviously, I would like a little more surface area on the top here at the neck, but I'm going to ganache, so I still have the room to work on it, make it a bit more flat. From here all around, there'll be ganache coming in as well. I'm just going to leave this, rest this in the freezer. It is kind of softened up and I just want to freeze it. So we could just cling wrap this whole thing at this stage and then freeze this for about half an hour. In the meantime, I'll just clear up and then come back with some more cake crumbs and work on. So we're going to build the leg and the hands as well using the same cake pop because I want everything in the body to be all cake. So you want to cut through any part which is not the head. I just want cake to be there. So only the head we are going to use the Rice Krispie treats, but let's finish the body. So I'll get back, clear up, freeze this after a layer of cling wrap and come back with some more cake pop mixture and make the hands and legs.